Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to an exciting video about an announcement I never expected to make, that my Patreon creators page went live yesterday, after 2+ maybe 3 years of being on Patreon. Yes, as you can probably tell from my tone, I fully expected to have a live creators page on Patreon because when I set it up all those years ago, there was no real hard and fast divide between Patreon creators and Patreon supporters. You just joined Patreon and filled in all the details to make payments to those you were supporting, and at the same time you filled in all the creator details, and I expected them both to be live. Now, I'm not the most diligent Patreon creator in the world in terms of I haven't really paid it much attention. I created a few tiers, added a few bits of artwork, added a few bits of text to each tier just to fill out the space, and then left it largely dormant because I wasn't really chasing Patreon subscribers for much of the time I've been on YouTube and or Patreon. Nevertheless, I did still expect both of them to be active. I mean, I've been supporting many people on Patreon, starting with Anti-Tracker, who I now support through his own webpage, then Mindless Entertainment, Doomcock, and MechaRandom42, and most recently of all, Beware, the fellow Doctor Who content creator that I discovered most recently. But despite my high level of activity supporting other people on Patreon, I did nevertheless just assume that the creator side of the account was active and still running. So imagine my surprise when I went into the creator side recently and found a whole bunch of tick boxes of things I'd successfully completed, except for this mysterious validation tick box that had suddenly appeared at the bottom with a big and rather ominous cross next to it. Suffice to say, once I discovered it, I ticked it, and lo and behold, I suddenly had an active account again. There were a few other things I had to fill in, which I don't recall being necessary or even present when I filled in my Patreon sign-up details originally, but everything has now been filled in and updated. I also took the liberty of updating my account name to Dr. Alex as opposed to my actual name, Alex Leiths, because that would seem to be more useful in terms of my YouTube channel and the way that I'm known in all the things I create there. Now, it wasn't entirely random that I went back into Patreon and started looking in the creator section, because there is something coming up which I want to give my YouTube subscribers the opportunity to pick up, and the easiest way I could think of doing it was doing it via the Patreon tiers as a reward for the top level tier. So as such, I rejigged and tarted up the Patreon tiers that I'd already created and renamed them into something more appropriate to my The Doctor Reads the Doctor by the Doctor series. And although the rewards are all largely along the lines of credits in future videos of differing magnitude, depending on your level of Patreon subscription, the highest tier, the oh-so-lofty $50 tier, does have a physical reward associated with it. Now, this physical reward has not yet been rendered. I am now fully understanding Anti-Trekker's frustration when he tries to produce physical prizes and rewards for his Patreons and supporters, and I understand his frustration when these get delayed. But as soon as I've received the first prototype of this prize, I will update the Patreon supporter description to reflect this. Anyway, two final things to wrap up and conclude. Those people I support on Patreon, this won't affect Anti-Tracker because he is now supported via his webpage, but it will affect Mindless Entertainment, Doomcock, MechaRandom42, and Beware. They should be aware that any future communications they get regarding me will now have Dr. Alex on them rather than Alex Leiths. And for any of my subscribers and viewers wishing to sign up for my Patreon creator side and support me, there are now more detailed tiers available, starting with the lowest tier, the $1 tier, which I've named the Floppy Hats, which has the general reward of a thank you on my videos on the general Patreon thank you page, which will now be included, if I get anyone on Patreon, at the end of my videos. The second tier will include this plus an additional credit on the screwdriver page, because that will be the second tier one. The $2 one is the screwdriver. You are a screwdriver if you're paying $2. A very useful implement to have, particularly when they are sonic. The third tier is Dogbot, a loving reference to the Doctor's favourite robotic companion. In addition to the Dogbot page mentioned in videos, you will also receive, hopefully, a picture of a neighbourhood cat, because, well, you know, what would a dog enjoy more than a picture of a cat? Only one cat per month, though. I mean, it is only the $5 tier after all. The next level tier is the $10 level, which is the assistant level, and on this one you'll get a production assistant credit, as well as all the lower tier rewards, of course. The penultimate tier is the companion tier at $25, and you will get an individual credit page at the end of videos if you are at the companion level, and you will be credited as a producer, which leads us to the final ultimate tier at the top there at $50, which will get you this amazing physical reward once it's rendered, and I've got access to it. it, and I will be showing it to you in a near future video once the Doctor Reads the Doctor by the Doctor Season 12 is out of the way and finished. And as you've probably guessed, this physical reward is related to that series and future projects spinning off from that. So, watch this space. This final tier is, of course, Time Lord. And not only will you hold that most elevated of ranks, you will also get an individual page credit in videos where you will be properly recognized as an executive producer. Well, I think that just about wraps up my rambling on about Patreon. I hope that people I support on Patreon have not been similarly tricked or misled by the sudden appearance of this tick box that you need to fill in order to keep your creator site active. And any of those that I support through Patreon, perhaps you should go and check your page just to make sure it's still active. I'm sure it is. Probably just me being ditzy has somehow missed this mysterious tick box which had never been there before. But it might be worth having a look. And so that only leaves me left to say thank you for listening to me rambling on about Patreon. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video, which will almost certainly be the season finale of The Doctor Reads the Doctor Season 12, As the Crow Flies. For now, as always, take care.